My name's Robert Urquhart, and I'm the acting course leader of the BA Design Management. I've been working on the course for about 7 years now, going through from lecturer to senior lecturer to currently acting course leader on this course. And it's a pleasure to be with you. Just before we start, we have a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, then please write them in the question box. There'll be a Q&A session, time for you to ask as many questions as you like at the end. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Gemma Holdaway, who is a current third-year student on the BA Design Management. And Gemma will be here as well to answer the kind of questions that I won't be able to answer. So if you've got any questions about studentship, day-to-day life on the course, what the course entails from a student perspective, Gemma is here for you. There's going to be some key contacts here for you. Accommodation will be set front and foremost of your mind probably as well. We've got accommodation who can help you go through that. And if you've got any questions about admissions, we're going to brief you a bit at the end about what's needed in order to apply. But there's some email links on the screen there for you as well. And so let's get to it. Why London College of Communication? Well, we're part of the wider UAL family, but we're really industry focused in the design school here. We're part of a trio of schools within the building here in Elephant and Castle. We're in the design school, but we also have a media school and a screen school that we share facilities with, that we share social lives with, and that we share day-to-day in and about the college life with. So it's a very dynamic, active and creative neighbourhood that we're part of. But we're very proud to be part of the design school here. So as I mentioned before, we've got 6 colleges within one university. You've probably heard of our family network. We're part of a family that includes London College of Fashion, part of Central St Martin's, Camberwell, Chelsea, etc. But we're very much centred in the London College of Communication here, although students of ours collaborate and visit facilities, particularly the libraries across the entire network. And it's really great to be part of this large family. But as I say, we're really proud of being in the design school. And we have a design school manifesto, which is really based around the now and future of our planet. We have a design school manifesto, which is really embedded into all of the learning that we do. And that's written as a conversation around sustainability, around a multidisciplinary community of internationally recognized educators, researchers and practitioners. And I'm going to come on to that later on. But we're really, really centered on bringing in inclusivity in everything we do. We're really embedded in looking at the environmental concerns of what a design school needs to be thinking about in the now and the near future, and also in the future to come. And we place that in every unit that we study, that we discuss here on BA Design Management. So within the design school, there are all of these courses, and we're embedded in the branding, design and innovation program. And as you can see, that's the one on the left-hand side here. And so, as I was saying before, we're part of the kind of social innovation and sustainable futures elements to what we do. We're part of looking at climate justice. We're part of looking at all these things, but we have a very specific area of interest. And I'm going to talk you through the BA Design Management outlook. So what is BA Design Management and what do we do on the course? Design Management dates back to the post-war, Second World War industrial design process, but it's come on by leaps and bounds since the 1950s, as the entire world has as well. So whilst we stem from some of the early work around business management and industrial design processes, we have also embodied and worked with developments in branding, marketing, areas where design management has been part of a strategic vision. And when we think about how design management operates now, we're very much working beyond the artifact. We understand that design is a process, as all designers do, but that process can be embedded into areas of everyday life in industries that traditionally may not have been considered places where design management and collaboration would happen. If we look at the digital revolution of the last 20 years, we see that ways of thinking, ways of operating, design thinking, systems thinking are all very much a part of our contemporary landscape now. We think about how communities can work together, we co-design, and we collaborate with many, many different areas of industry, which is why our course is really, really attractive to industry. And our graduate shows are very popular with people who want to find out more about what our students are learning and have learned on the course and where they fit into contemporary creative industries, but also in social innovation in pretty much every area of contemporary enterprise and business. So our students come out with the kind of knowledge and skills, both soft and hard, that allow them to be really strategic thinkers. Here we have on these two slides work that was shown in the graduate showcase as part of the graduate exhibition in 2022. And this was created by the students themselves to talk about what they'd learnt. And we'll go into that in more detail in a second. So this was the graduate exhibition here at LCC in 2022. And it was really interesting for us as educators to really see what our future pathways would bring from the education that our students had had over the 3 years with us. And as you can see, there's a wide variety of future pathways. So this is highly attractive if you feel and understand that that you are maybe, creatively minded, you're interested in something which is grounded in a future where you can do any number of things going forwards. So as we can see on the right hand side here, we've got, yes, of course, we've got design manager as being a future pathway, but we've got students that go into service design, user experience, trend foresight, service design, as I've mentioned there, systems designer, product design, artist or philosopher, ethnographer, researcher. And when Gemma talks to you, she'll have her own outlook about where she sees herself going after she's graduated. But we provide you with the kind of a myriad of skills that allow you to go into the jobs of the future, because the jobs that you'll be graduating into may not exist at the moment. The world we live in is a very fast moving and changing dynamic, and we're very confident that you'll be equipped to face whatever future you choose to go into when you graduate. So we've got a lot of future pathways available to you on the course. So here I'm going to introduce Gemma, and Gemma, you're going to be graduating in June 2023, and you've been with us through the pandemic, and now we're out the other side of that. I'm just curious to hear what studying at university is like for you.
So yeah, as you said, I've kind of been through every phase of the pandemic and studying at university, going from like purely online learning to now being in 3 times a week, which is amazing and weird seeing so many people. But just studying at university, we're so lucky to have a really big support system, within our class, our tutors, but also now we have the student union that's now based here at university that you can always go and talk to. We have student services, people that can, library, academic support, like there's a whole range of support. So when you're in the building, there are those facilities that you can go and check out, so you're really not alone. And I think one thing that I was a bit worried about when starting at university was the whole, can I get a job and work at the same time and study at the same time? And luckily there's like a job system within UAL as well for like doing library shelving or helping out with like student ambassador stuff at UAL. So there really is a support system here for you. I mean, I know some people that do have jobs outside of university as well, which is also an option, but within UAL, they kind of help you more along the way, especially if you're an international student. They really tailor it to, you know, the amount of hours that you can work as an international student. So yeah, it's basically, I just feel like the support system has been really good and is still good. That's something that I'm going to miss going into the real world, I think. But yeah, I think that's my experience of it, really.
Excellent, excellent. And what about accommodation and things like that? I'm sure there's going to be questions at the end. You live, I think, in Southeast London. Other students, like they're in student accommodation, and what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, so I think in the first year, quite a lot of students from our course were in student accommodation. I was lucky enough to find private accommodation. That can be a hassle, especially if you're an international student. Realistically, it is easier when you are a home student and have a guarantor, but like we have halls and accommodation at UAL that you can apply for or get help to apply for. So yeah, there's that support that you need in order to get settled in, really. And I know some people in third year who have been able to still use the halls. So yeah.
That's good. And London can be a daunting place, and we're very keen on pastoral support as well, particularly if you're new to the UK, or even if you're a home student that's new to London. So we understand and appreciate that, and we have what we call pastoral tutorials, at least once a term for individual meetings with our students. We're very lucky as well because we're quite a small course compared to some other courses. There's an average of about 40 students, 30 to 40 students on each year group, with a course staff of one year lead for each year. So we really get to know our students, which really helps in terms of making sure that you're happy and healthy and able to not just do academic work, but to function as a student in a big city. So we're very keen on that, and we do, as Gemma was saying, it's not just the academic staff that take an interest in this. We also have student services and a wide array of support for you in that instance. So thank you, Gemma, for that. That's really interesting to hear as well for me. So I just want to take us through the kind of Vision 2023. There's a lot of words on this page. I'm just going to pick out a few ones. We really are keen, as we've said, about talking about the students graduating from the BA will implement a mindset that understands the ever-evolving relationship between the social, environmental, and entrepreneurial needs that shape our world. So how do we do that? Well, design management, combines two problematic words in many instances. Design is incredibly wide ranging, where you can have fashion design, you can have product design, you can have graphic design. But here at LCC, in the design school, traditionally we've come from a print background. However, as I was saying earlier, we've evolved over the last few years to really embrace what communication means in areas other than just visual. We've got a fantastic array of facilities that I'll take you through later on. But production for us is not always about the artifact. It's about understanding how design teams work and how production methods can be understood, and what the baseline is for communicating what you need to do. So we're not necessarily producing for a means to an end for our poster or whatever, but we're thinking about what it takes to get things done. So that involves project management, which is part of studentship anyway, but it's often an invisible, if it's done right, an invisible process. And but we kind of zone in on that a bit more than other courses, and we are by and large the kind of lateral thinkers that can understand beyond the kind of individualistic approach to design. If you're an illustrator, you're concentrating on your vision and an illustration. But if you're a design manager, you're wondering how that illustration may fit into the bigger picture. So in a sense, there is a kind of directorial approach to production. You're kind of understanding the steps and what things need to go through. I know that Gemma in the third year cohort at the moment are putting on an exhibition of their research methodology. And that's an external exhibition that's coming up in December now. We're recording this in November. And as part of that, we've given them the free rein to kind of produce this and find the location and to do all of the work that might otherwise not be something that creatives would do, in the hope that they can see the ins and outs of a production process. We also have facilitation and negotiation. That means understanding what the real problems are in a situation and figuring out what the needs and requirements of an audience or of users or of clients are. And this bears direct relation to some of the kind of jobs that people go into when they graduate. We have quite a lot of students that go into production, managing clients, being the kind of interface between a design team and a client, which is a highly creative role. And it also pertains to strategy, which is the third thing that we have here. So these are kind of three layers where we've got to understand how something works. We've got to understand how people work and what people need. And then we've got to understand how having known how things work and what people need, we put them together, and that is strategy, the roadmap forward. So we're looking at creating positive impact, going back to the design school manifesto there, thinking about, is this sustainable? Are we doing the right thing? Are we making the world a better place? But we're also looking at how design can influence and shape and nurture change within the wider environment. So you might not necessarily end up working in a design studio when you leave us. You might end up working in local government. You might end up working for small to medium enterprises, helping understand the value of what's being created and then communicating that value. We have co-design in the midst of what we do, and a lot of what we do is centered around what we call human-centered design. So we're really trying to identify the needs of the people that we're working with and designing for and designing with. And I think Gemma's going to allude to that when she shows you what she's currently working on. So we're talking about design thinking, and design thinking is a process. It's a set of tools and a mindset. And at the same time, we're kind of understanding how things get done. So it's not just about having a lovely idea and going and do it and then trying to get it done. It's about understanding what the real need is. So in that sense, we think about something called wicked problems, which is a problem that can't just be approached in a very, very linear way. You just go and solve it right there and then. So something like poverty, something like climate change, something that has a myriad of different things making it happen, we're very interested in areas like that. So when we come on to talk about live briefs, we had a brief for second years last year, which was around the future of money. You know, what does the future of money entail? So we might work on some seemingly quite abstract concepts, but they all have a bearing towards your end goal. So really, we're the big bridge builders for problem solving. We kind of are the people that get things over the river. Yeah. So we're bridge builders between stakeholders. We understand who's in the room. We understand where people connect. We create processes, conditions, and environments for problem solving. We research and create insights for the best possible outcome, and we instigate change and deliver with process. So research is at the core of everything we do. I'm just going to have a sip of water here, just one second. Research is the real grounding in all design processes, but we pay particular attention to research because research is currency. Research is something that we can use to work for a really good outcome. And our third years this term, in their final year, have just spent pretty much the whole term talking about and delivering research and insights, because if you get the research right, the end outcome is going to be fantastic. So research is the foundation to what we do. So there's a lot going on. So we've got 3 years on the course, and the first year is really an introduction. You'll see the word on the left-hand side here. Introduction is used a lot. Some of our students come to us with a foundation. Some of our students come to us with another degree already. Some of our students come to us straight from school. Some of our students come to us as students that have maybe taken time out or are returning to education. So we have a wide mix of experience that comes into the room on that first day of term, and that's really good. And we're very pleased to have that really great mix, not just of international and home students, but students that are coming to us from very different backgrounds. And we celebrate those different backgrounds, and we invite you to bring your heritage, your understanding, your cultural dynamic to what we do. We're not here to indoctrinate you and to set the absolute. All of our students are invited to bring their interests and which are diverse, ranging from fashion to architecture, as Gemma's going to show you with architecture, to fintech, to a number of different things. And the beauty of the projects that we work on is that often you can embed your interest into what you do. So what we're looking at in year one is an introduction. So an introduction to production, an introduction to facilitation and negotiation, an introduction to strategy, and introduction to the kind of academic underpinning of what you do. All courses at BA level and the design school require an amount of academic practice. I think really gone are the days where you go to art school so that you don't have to read and write. You will be required to write a dissertation. And the way that we operate on the BA Design Management is to make that as comfortable as possible for you. Many of our students, myself included, suffer from dyslexia. We have great academic support, but we do feel that practice and theory should go hand in hand. You should understand where things come from, what other people have said. And we're very much excited by the idea of introducing texts and keywords and looking at some of the great things that people have written and said in the past. So we have CTS, which runs throughout the whole of UAL. And as you can see, that's the blue one at the bottom, and it ends up with a conjoined critical theory and practice. So you're not just able to work with industry and produced to an industry level professional standard, but that you can talk about it with a really critical lens. So year 1 is an introduction. Year 2 is an intermediate level, where we're introducing primary and secondary research more clearly into your projects and inviting you to go out and to really look at what you're doing. And in year 3, it's about bringing those together, and you're producing research for development. You're working really at a professional project management level. You're incorporating systems thinking. You're thinking about the end-to-end lifespan of what you're doing and where it can go. You're facilitating stakeholders' needs. That means working with, your major project in a way that incorporates and is thought about in terms of who you're working with. And you're creating toolkits. You're creating something that has a lifespan beyond the project itself. And one interesting thing, that when we had graduates come in the beginning of October, we had some recent graduates from 2022 and 2021, a service designer, a production manager, and an audience, a client manager. And they all, which was really heartening to see, said, wow, we didn't realize when we were doing these units of study, which is these units of study here, how that we could use them and put them in a portfolio, and that they would get us work at the end. So all of these units, some universities call them modules, we call them units. These are kind of blocks of study that all relate to each other and all link together. So in our current first year is working on design principles, creative industry and economy, and an introduction to design management. Next term, they'll be working on locating design management practices. Excuse me, just one second. That will, hopefully I'm just in discussion at the moment, but that should involve a live client coming in and helping us understand their kind of process of a project, a creative project. And you will have a contextual theoretical studies unit in the first year. And our second year is really about design thinking and doing, in beginning to really learn about human-centered design. We have a marketing, communications and cultures unit, which is looking at kind of the global, local impact of kind of marketing, but through the lens of design management, which means it's not just about creating a poster or an advert. It's really understanding who you're pitching to and trying to work through a process which is much more about looking at audience needs, which is actually really what contemporary branding and marketing is about. And then we have professional practices, which is a unit where you collaborate with the entire design school and you work on a live brief. I'm teaching on that. I'm in fact teaching on every year group at the moment, because we don't just all the staff teach separate units. In professional practice at the moment, I'm working on a live brief for a soft drink, a UK-based soft drink called Beaver Farm, and the winners of which I'm sure my team will win, will be put on their designs and strategy will be put onto the supermarket shelves. So that's an exciting design school project there, which is a live brief. And then in the second part of the year 2, we have interdisciplinary projects and practices. Again, that's usually a live brief area. Last year it was the future of money, which one of our teams won, which was really good to see. And they received a cash prize for that, which was very generous of the sponsor for that. And we also have CTS2, which is really preparing you for your dissertation. I'm also teaching on CTS Route B at the moment. There's 2 options between your dissertation, a longer dissertation or a dissertation and a project. And then there's the major project, which Gemma is currently undertaking, which is a self-initiated project. And maybe when Gemma talks it through, she could give you a little bit of an insight about the kind of things that people are doing. They're all quite different, which is really great. It's really about you pursuing your interest. And that really helps you when it comes to graduating, because you can tailor your major project to the area that you want to go into. We also have Leadership and Futures, which is a unit that equips you to graduate. So it's all about getting your portfolio together. It's about networking. It's about you being able to talk with confidence about what you do. So the outcome is that we produce graduates that understand and communicate the creative and business needs of designers, users, clients, and audiences. We understand and implement the production and execution of creative projects. So we can be the creative lead on this, or we can be somebody who puts it all together. All of these things are creative. And as I was saying, going back to kind of the kind of outcomes of this, I've noted down here, and actually it's making me laugh here, the idea of Scrum Master, which I find very machismo and kind of gender awkward personally, but it's the idea that that you're going to be someone that's in the middle of something. That's why I put 2O next to it. The idea that you might be a service designer, you might work with community or be a social manager, you might be a strategic planner, you might be a creative director, you might be an entrepreneur, you might go into branding and marketing. You might be none of those things and decide that you want to do something else, and that's okay as well, because we're confident that we're giving you the kind of outlook that will be able to respond. And one of those things that comes up is that a lot of our students go on to do an MA, often within London College of Communication itself, but also all around the UK and internationally. And what's really interesting is that we do set you up academically to be able to perform at an MA level. I'm confident that the quality of the work that we produce is really strong in that area. So I've had great feedback from the courses that just even within the design school that students have gone on to, and they range from an MA in design management afterwards. We've had students on that recently. An MA in graphics, branding and identity is something that one of our students is currently doing, and an MA in design for art direction, and also MAs in sustainability. So as you can see, where you go is really whatever you choose to pursue. And remember, on a 3-year course, your interests will change and evolve, but you quite often come in with one idea and you leave satisfied with another idea. It's a learning journey. It's designed, and you yourself will evolve and change. So we're there for you at every stage of the journey. There's no right or wrong entrance or exit to what we do. So Gemma, over to you with your kind of graduate story. I've got a couple of slides here. Maybe you want to take us through what you're looking at the moment.
So yeah, as Robert said, I am in 3rd year, and I kind of just want to walk through kind of the work that I've been doing like in 2nd year as well, and kind of what I'm doing with my major project as well. So I wrote down here that one of the key things that we are encouraged to, and we have the freedom to do, is using and exploring our interests through each project that we have. We're very lucky to have briefs that kind of enable that exploration. And that's something that I've really used, because I came in to the course thinking, like, I had already written down, oh, this is what I want to do for my major project. And and then I realized, like, after going through year 1 and year 2, that I was testing out my interests through the projects, figuring out what do I want to work with, what don't I want to work with. And like now I've reached a point where, like, okay, I know what I want to work with. So I think don't set in stone like these are my interests and I want to work with them in 3 years' time, because that's really not the case, and I don't think it is for that many people either on the course. So I'll just briefly run through a project that I did in year 2. It's something, again, I was looking at my interests And at that point, this is for marketing, communications and cultures unit at the end of second year, which now is in the first part of second year. And at the time I was really getting into like circular economy and sustainability, and I just bought some bowls or ceramic bowls that are made out of 70% waste materials. And I was kind of thinking, they're a small local business. We have to propose a brand strategy for a business. Perhaps I can do it on them. So then this company, they wanted to initially use 100% waste materials, but due to systems like supply chains, they couldn't. So then I thought, oh, how can I develop a strategy to help them achieve that? So on the left, that's kind of like the visuals that I made for my project, which is called the Return Recycle Change Community Recycling Scheme, where the local community where this company was born and raised, it would be this community recycling initiative where the community can donate their broken ceramics and get an incentive voucher from after donating, which so they can use to buy ceramics at the shop, which then can help the company kind of boost their closed loop supply chain and just kind of help them integrate more waste materials into their supply chain. So, I mean, it is a bit of a long project and very complex. On the right, you can see I was kind of mapping out what is their current system with the black line, and then how my strategy can kind of create a circular system with the green line. So it really, like the process of doing this project, like I really had to dig deep, and just going through these processes with your interest really helps you figure out, do I actually want to work with this? And I found out, yes, it is something that I want to work with. But it just really helps you understand how to do research within that field, which tools that you need to use, and if you like working with those tools as well. And kind of just adapting through this process, as Robert said, like the process is really important within our projects. And just testing within that process is really important also for yourself to figure out if you want to work with it or not. And also just realizing it's okay to, you know, take a step back and reevaluate things within your projects. And I feel like the course really helps set you up for that. Like when you then go into the real world, into the working environment, then you really have that mindset of, okay, we can take a step back and reevaluate things in a project. It doesn't have to go perfectly, because how else are you going to learn from it? So yeah, that was just like a quick overview of one of my projects. Next slide, please. So yeah, now I'm in third year, I'm doing my major project. And one thing I've realized is that I'm essentially combining all the interests that I kind of tested out through first year and second year, and kind of creating a web of them where circular economy is in the middle. So it's very much linked to circular economy within architecture education and the relearning part of that. And I mean, even in third year, you're still figuring things out, especially in the first part of third year. Like my project has evolved perhaps 3 times already within 2 months, because we're still doing, like we have units where we're learning about research methods that we can use for third year, and just going through that process and reflecting, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go in this direction instead. I feel like I'm a bit more passionate right now about this. And, you know, it's just constantly an evolving process. So I feel like it's really important to be open to that and not kind of say, oh, I really want to work with this now, but then you have to think out, you're going to be working with this for essentially, you know, 8 months-ish. Do you really want to, you know, figure out 4 months in, or like when you're towards the end, like, I'm really not passionate about this anymore. And it's the same with other people, like the peers in my cohort, their projects, like we have peer reviews quite often, which is really nice to talk to other students about how they're getting on and kind of just help out if we can. And their projects are changing too, because they realize, oh, I'm a bit of a dead end. Like for me, initially, I realized that I would have to do a lot of research, like my audience was really big. So then I had to tailor that. And it's just better to, reevaluate things rather than getting stressed about the situation. So yeah, I feel like it's really important to map your interests throughout every stage of the course to figure out what is it you like, what is it you don't like working with it, and just testing it out. You have a lot of freedom to test things out. And we get so many, toolkits and frameworks that we can use within these projects, and just see if these toolkits and frameworks are something you want to bring into your major project as well. And yeah, it's just, I just find it amazing to see the amount of like different perspectives I get from my peers as well, coming from so many different cultural backgrounds. And because a lot of people then focus on their local communities and initiatives, like their major projects focus on their local communities and problems there. Like for me, it's in the UK, I'm looking at circular economy education within the UK architecture industry. But I mean, you're really not limited to the UK at all. Like we're very, very fortunate to have a very wide brief that we can bring our own interests into, like as Robert said.
Excellent, thank you, Gemma. And just quickly, what kind of projects are you, when you're doing those peer reviews, what kinds of things are people interested in?
Oh, that is like, there's a lot about that, like there's so many different things, but some people want to create platforms for music sharing and community building. Other people are looking at, I think, gentrification as well, and homelessness within the UK. Fashion, like sustainable packaging, biodegradable packaging, supply chain within the fashion industry, like is so broad, which is really nice because I can't wait to see our graduation show when that time comes and we're all stressed, but to see just all of our work together and seeing what direction we might go into as well.
That's really lovely to hear. And of course, yeah, anyone watching this, please do come along to the graduation show in June 2023. Thank you very much, Gemma. That's a really, really lovely insight there. So, how do we cover this? There's lots of different things going on. Well, our staff expertise, we've got 4 core staff, and we bring in a number of associate lecturers and also guests. At the moment, Gemma's class is having a different industry guest every Friday. We also have, as I mentioned before, we have live briefs, and we have people coming in across the design school, but also being brought in to all 3 years of the course. We're connected to industry, right? We don't just teach, we work with industry as well. I'm just writing an article at the moment for the Dutch Design Foundation on wellness, but our other staff are all involved in other things at the moment. And we have these live briefs, so we have competitions that we win, and we have guests that come in as well. Our facilities are vast, and we invite you to come in. If you're able to come in to an open day on site, you can see for yourself what we have available. One thing to bear in mind is that in year 2, you get the opportunity to take a further year in a diploma in professional studies. Our students have been particularly successful in that because, again, going back to the way we teach, we find that we're quite versatile, and students often go off out into the world and come back a year later energized and ready and looking forward to being back at college as well, which is really heartening to see. So we've got an opportunity now for any questions, and I'm going to hand over to our administrator for this session, our moderator, but both Gemma and I are available for questions.
Hi, Robert. Thanks very much for that. So our first question is, and Robert, I think you briefly touched on this, but maybe you could go into a bit more detail, but is the course more theoretical or practical?
That's a good question. It's a combination. Theory and practice go hand in hand. When we say practical, it's always interesting to kind of uncover what that may pertain to. The kind of outcomes that we have on the course are focused really around communication of ideas and concepts. So in the first term, our first year students are currently working within design, and they're producing what we call a Rizzo print of a collaborative project that they're working on to explore a theme that they've been working on, which is about mapping their environment. So they're getting experience in the print room. They're getting to make a Rizzo print themselves. They're learning InDesign. InDesign is the kind of basic professional communication tool, Adobe InDesign, and we're very keen on making sure that all students are aware of that. In the second part, the first year, the kind of making doing bit is going to be focused around kind of understanding what technicians do and how things get done. But the reality of our situation is by and large that we are working with strategy, we are working with co-design processes. So when we talk about tools, we're often talking about frameworks and how to implement them, when Gemma was showing you that. So we're not just a straightforward, take a nice picture and learn how to develop it. We're not going to be producing posters all the time. We're not a graphic media design course. We're not an illustration course. However, your creativity and your ability to think creatively and to produce work that really communicates something is very vital to what we do. I myself come from a fine art background. I studied fine art. One of our lecturers is a photographer, a well-known, well, an internationally renowned music photographer. We have an art director leading the second year. We have someone who's really interested in social innovation leading the third year. So in terms of practice and theory, I think it would be remiss of me to say that theory isn't important. It is, but theory can be fun, right? Theory isn't something to be afraid of. Theory is what marks you out as somebody who is able to talk about what they do and to get concepts delivered in the way that they need to be delivered. And I think pretty much all courses, we don't deviate from what other courses would do in terms of the academic practice, but we understand that our students are able to have softer skills as well in communication. You need to be able to talk and to listen to people in a co-design process. And so it's not an isolatory creative experience. There is support for students that are worried about academic theory. Equally, we have students that really want to do more theory in their work, and we are able to support that as well. So you might be coming to this thinking, I don't want to do the practice element as much as the theory element. And we can support that as well. People come to us with all kinds of different experiences of their own education, but we ask you to be open-minded and to approach creativity as something that isn't just a left brain, right brain scenario. When I was at college, I was told you're either good at art or you're good at business, and that doesn't exist anymore. People who are good at business are generally really creative, in my experience, and people who are really creative actually can unlock some really interesting business moves. So we sit in the middle. We are the bridge builders. We sit between the theory and the practice, the management and the design. I hope that answers your question, but please feel free to ask another question if I haven't answered it.
Thank you very much, Robert. Is there a way to take one of the years abroad? Can you talk about any kind of like study abroad opportunity?
Yeah, we have, at the moment, we have 12 students that have come into us in the second year from Parsons School of Design in New York. We do have an exchange program. Obviously, that's shifted with the political landscape in the UK, but there is what we call a Turin agreement now, where there was once an Erasmus agreement. We have a connection with Lisbon. We've had a connection with Paris College of Art. We have a connection with Hong Kong. So we do have students coming in, and we had students going out last year to Lisbon and to Paris. So yes, that is, and I think that information is available on the design school website. So there is an option, but we have to, it can't just be anywhere, unfortunately, because we have to marry up the equivalent units of study to make it a degree. So it has to be a pre-arranged session, which is why we only have agreements with certain universities. But it certainly has been the case. I know that Gemma has got experience because David, I think, in our second year was at Lisbon last year. So I don't know whether that helps.
That's great, thank you very much. Now we do have a question on portfolio, so I do want to caveat with this with Robert as an academic isn't super involved in the portfolio process, and we do have an online session coming up that is a portfolio advice session on the 2nd of December, and you will receive an email after the session with a link to that. But Robert, just because this is asking, what is the importance of portfolio in this course, as it is a combination of management and design, and what key aspects are looked for in the portfolio? I'm not sure that's something you can answer, or also Gemma, maybe you could give some advice as well.
I was just trying to think when I submitted a portfolio with my application. I think for me, I submitted different mediums, different things that I had done, like documentary, photography, also projects that I had done on the side. And I think I explained my process within it and my thoughts within the context of it. I think that's really key, is show that you're already having these considerations about the context in which this project is taking place, and those, that process that you're going through, not just about what it is we're seeing, like a photo or a poster or anything like that, but really about how you developed it and how you made it, what considerations you were making, where was it taking, what is the context of it. That's what I did, and it kind of equipped me to have that mindset when joining the course as well.
That's a really good, and I think that helps answer the other question, Gemma, on the creative or the theory and the practice, because we want our students, we've got great facilities. We want our students to be really interested in visual communication, in photography, in filmmaking, and there are elements of those things in what we do. But we also want to know why and where and how. And that's what equips you to be a really strong creative, whether you go into art direction or strategy or marketing or branding. It's kind of being able to answer this questions beneath the surface of what you do. So don't just give us an image in the portfolio. Tell us why you took it, or why it's important, or where it was, or the context to it. And as for your portfolio when you leave, you're going to have a portfolio that speaks to you about your interests, your hard skills, your softer skills as well. So that portfolio never stops evolving. So don't feel like you have to have, when you come to us, that you have to have it all sorted out. You're not coming to us with all of the answers. You're coming to us with all of the questions. And that's the most important thing when you join any course, is to be open-minded and to realize that you don't have to be perfect from the beginning. We just need to see that you're interested, that you're open-minded, that you're willing to learn from yourself as well as from others, including your peers. So we're not looking for answers. anymore. When you're at school, there's a book with the answers in it. When you're at university, you're creating the answers yourself. That's the most important thing.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think we're just coming up on time now, so I will draw the questions to a close. Thank you very much, Robert and Gemma, for that session. It's really informative. Is there anything else you want to add before we close?
I'm fine, apart from to say thank you for everyone that's joined us, and that you can find us on the design management website. I think my email address is on there. If there's any further questions after today or at any time in the future, please do contact us on the course.
Lovely. Thank you very much, everyone. And we hope to see you very soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.